Well, hello.
Hi.
Hi, Jen.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How you doing? Good to meet you.
You too.
So Jose, I can see you. I can't hear you. Um,
Here we go.
oh, there you are.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for being here. We'll see
Of
how many.
course.
Yeah, we'll see how many people show up. We'll sort of sit here and wait a few minutes for people to come in. You're going to probably hear me say things a couple times since you guys are here right on time, but I don't want anybody to feel obligated. Hi, Dana. I don't want anybody to feel obligated to use their video if they don't feel like sharing. That's no problem at all.
Okay.
So if people aren't comfortable or just would rather not be on video or want to just turn off their video and walk away and go do something else, they can go ahead and do that if they would like. But I don't want to obligate anybody during any of these Zooms to feel like they need to share their video. Also, just to let people know, and I'll probably say this again in 10 minutes, but I am recording these Zooms. I mean, you've had multiple messages from me to the point of annoyance, I'm sure, but I'm recording these Zooms so those people who are unable to make it at this time or are not necessarily comfortable with this whole format, as weird as it is, they can access the sort of conversations we have. So just be aware of that. They will be posted to YouTube, but they will not be posted. They'll be posted privately. Sorry, we're going to hear some beeping as I let people in. They'll be posted privately that they won't be searchable on YouTube. Only people who have the link will have access, which will be our class essentially. So you know. So how is everybody?
Good.
Good.
In these, I mean, it's kind of a loaded question in these times.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I hope everybody is healthy and safe and that all your loved ones are healthy and safe. Definitely. I have a 2-year-old son, so I mean, I don't know, extra scared in some ways for me, but just being safe, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think what I want to do today, and we'll see how popular or unpopular this is. You know, my thought was to, I've taught a lot, and forgive the mad scientist hair. I haven't had a haircut since March, so just, you know, so, as I'm sure many of you haven't. So, but I see, I wanted to open up this space, as I've written about in my announcements, just so we have a place, should we want it. It's not required, as I mentioned, but you do get participation points for being here. Those participation points I'll talk about in a second, just to clarify those. And I'm obviously going to open up this space for any questions about the class overall. And then I'd like to do some introductions, just, you know, quick informal introductions, just to say hi, put some names to some faces. Like I told everybody who's in here, and I see, you know, Sarah and Brian in here as well. You guys are not required to show your videos, so don't feel obligated to do that. That's for all the Zooms coming up. But anyways, having this space is a place where we can go and sort of have conversations live, I guess, in person. I find with having taught many online and hybrid courses, and I mentioned this as well, that, you know, there's something feels like it's missing a little bit. I mean, online courses are extremely convenient. They can be great. There's some wonderful advantages to online courses, particularly with our busy lives and our responsibilities and so on and so forth. But there's also, you know, there's a major disadvantage in my opinion, which is that you really lose that face-to-face interaction that I think does a lot for education. I think what we'll do is we'll start off. The other things I want to do for today is just do brief introductions, and then open it up for questions about the class. And then I want to talk a little bit about uh, the work that we've already done. We've done obviously the first lessons discussion board, which is fantastic. I'm aware of the fact that many of you may have already done a song analysis assignment in 105. And that's perfectly fine. Even if you wanted to bring back whatever assignment you did in 105, that's fine. And the reason for that is not because I'm just trying not to challenge you. The reason for that is that the real goals for this first module, and that's the other thing I want to do today, is talk a little bit about the M1 overview, is the real goals for this first essay is to sort of hone our analytical skills, right? So you'll notice that today's assignment or activity is based around sort of looking closely at analysis paragraphs, understanding what subclaims are, or what in this class we will call subclaims, which you may have called them subclaims in your previous class. You may not have. In this class, a subclaim is essentially the first sentence or two sentences, usually no more than two sentences, usually just one sentence, of your support paragraphs. And it's a, you probably called it a topic sentence in high school, or may have called it a topic sentence in other classes. The reason I prefer the phrase subclaim is because it emphasizes a little bit more directly what a subclaim does, which is that it presents a claim about, it's like a central claim for that paragraph, right? Or a thesis statement for that paragraph. It's not just saying what the paragraph is about. Like, for example, I'm going to look at, the chorus of the song in this paragraph. It tells you what the point you're trying to make is about that chorus. So it's a claim. It's saying the chorus of this song I see as meaning this, having this effect, and it means this. So we'll go into subclaims a little bit as well, but that's really the reason I start there for our first activities. Whereas normally you would think we would start with an introduction or understanding central claims. The reason for starting with subclaims and analysis is because I think that's most often where people really begin. I can see, you've already put forward two songs and it's just wonderful range of songs out there. You've already put forward two songs that are really interesting. How do I decide which song's effective? And then how do I begin? Well, one of the best places to begin is, instead of sort of blocking yourself by saying to myself, what's my argument going to be? Just pick out one thing and analyze it and start writing, right? Or start generating ideas, brainstorming, what have you. So that's the reason of starting with subclaims. The second module, which I'm just finishing up the assignment for, I tend not to want to just sort of recycle assignments from semester to semester. So the second module is going to be more complex, more difficult. It's 5% more of your grade compared to the first essay. This one's really about practicing that rhetorical analysis and developing those skills. Not that central claim and introduction, all that stuff isn't important, but that's really what the goal is. So let me, before we even get into all that, why don't we just, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us in here, and I was thinking maybe we could just go around and do a brief introduction. Let me put into chat what, if that's okay. If you're not comfortable doing that, that's okay. You can refrain. Of course, I can't figure out how to, oh, here's the chat. There we go. So I was thinking we could each just say your name. I'm going to sort of post in chat, name, and what you want to be called. And forgive me if I've already called you by the wrong name or mispronounced your name. But do let us know what you prefer. So your name, what you prefer to be called, your year in college, your major, your origin. How you answer that is up to you. Like, for example, my dad was born in Milan. I'm a first generation Italian American, but I'm originally from California, Santa Barbara, California, actually. So I'm not an East Coaster originally. And then a personal interest. So I'm going to post this in chat so people can see what I'm doing, if you can see that. So maybe I'll just start, because just to be an example. So I'm Professor Rick Reed, as you know. I'm happy if you want to call me Rick. That's perfectly fine with me. If that isn't comfortable for you, you can call me Professor, whatever it might be. Professor Reed, whatever. As far as my year, well, I have my PhD. I got my PhD in literature and creative writing. It's a dual PhD from the University of Southern California. And I've been at Montclair. I've been teaching here at Montclair State University, originally in the English department, now in the writing studies department since 2008. So this will be my 13th year. So I've been here for a little bit. My specialty is literature and creative writing is my major, but my specialty really is in critical thinking, critical analysis, kind of the work that we're doing. I work primarily in writing critical analysis of art and music and literature and whatever it might be. Is sort of one of the things that I love to do. But I also have a background in creative writing. I've published a book of poetry. I've published critical articles. My origin, like I mentioned, I'm originally from California, Santa Barbara, which is a beautiful place. It's about an hour and a half north of Los Angeles, about 95 miles north of Los Angeles. It's a beautiful coastal town. People often ask me why I ever left.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask that.
But to be honest with you, well, I went to, some of you may have grown up in small towns, and Santa Barbara isn't a small town, but it's a fairly small town. It's also majority, I would say probably 70% white, 30% Latino or Latinx, and then it's kind of it's a small town. It has a small town feel to me, and I wanted to get out. I went to college at University of Southern California, of course, down in LA, and was living in the city and loved that city as much as people don't like to love that city, but I love that city. And then I did some grad work up in San Francisco. So I lived in San Francisco for 4 years. And then I just naturally said, not naturally, but I said, I want to live in New York City. That seems like something to do. And so in 2006, I drove across the country. I might have been chasing a lover, maybe, but I also really want to live in New York City. And so I do. I live in Brooklyn. I'm actually in Boston right now because I'm at my in-laws.
Wait, so you usually live in New York, Brooklyn?
What's that?
You like your home is in Brooklyn?
Yeah, Jen. Yeah, exactly. So I live in Brooklyn. Yeah, and love it there. Mainly because I love city life, but mainly because we walk everywhere. I don't ever have to drive. It's not that I hate driving. I love driving on occasion. But growing up in California and not sitting in traffic is a wonderful, beautiful thing. Walking to the store, doing all that stuff, walking to my bars, my restaurants, that is the way I like to live. So my personal interest, well, I'm not going to say teaching because that's boring. I think an interest outside of teaching is I really love games, not necessarily like video games. I do play video games. I do enjoy video games, but I love any kind of like board games, even RPG games. I don't play a whole lot of RPG games, but I have a real interest, and this also goes to my scholarly interest in like games and narratives and generated narratives and collaboratively generated narratives.
Story one?
What's that?
Is it like a game where it's like a story and you choose decisions and then it like leads to, is it that type of thing?
Yeah, well, like as a kid, I was a big fan of choose your own adventure books. I don't know if you guys know what those are.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really fascinated by narratives that are generated collaboratively. So like RPG games or role-playing games, I don't really like, perhaps I'm too shy. I don't think I'm too shy. I just, like, that's where you like play a role. Like Dungeons and Dragons is the most famous RPG game. And and there's tons of them. There's like RPG games about every single sort of genre and theme you can think of. But what I like about them is essentially it puts people in a position where they have to tell a story collaboratively. So I wouldn't say I play a whole lot of games. I actually just think about them, study them, write about them. So I don't know. I'm really interested in like chance dynamics and so stuff like that. So like randomly generated narratives, kind of interesting. That's it. Any questions? Definitely enough about me. I'm just going to go across my screen. And like I said, if you'd rather bow out, that's perfectly fine. But I'm just going to sort of go across my screen. Jose, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah.
Make sure I'm got your name right and everything, or what you prefer to be called.
Yes, Jose Ortiz, and I'm a senior, and I'm with a major fashion studies and a minor, double minor actually, in fashion merchandising and design. So
Nice.
I'm just going to be here a little longer. Prior to that, I went to NGIT and studied architecture. So after the fourth year, I was like, let me come over here. I don't want to, you know, I got sick of architecture. So yeah. Interest in outside of fashion, I love styling. So going shopping with, you know, family, friends, if they need help picking an outfit. I also love cooking. So I'm, you know,
Wow.
I'm really handy dandy in the kitchen. And Boston, I was just there last year, and me and my partner fell in love with it. And you know, we drove Providence, Boston, and then I forgot what the other one was, but Newport. So
Okay.
it was amazing. Yeah.
Where do you live now in New Jersey?
Oh, I live here in Montclair.
Oh, okay.
Montclair,
Great.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my wife's from Boston, and that's why I'm here. We're with her parents. You know, we're not really like traveling around, of course, in these pandemic times. But yeah, with the 2-year-old son, Grandma and Grandpa definitely wanted to see our son, so we're here.
Oh, nice.
Really cool fashion merchandising. Well, I mean, I have a couple questions. My wife's actually in apparel merchandise. She works for Aeropostale, and
Oh, okay.
so she's in that world, I suppose.
Yeah.
What's your, if I was going over to your house, Jose, a new friend, what would be the go-to meal? I'm sure there's all kinds of things you cook, but
Yeah, actually, I'm making jambalaya today. So, so yeah, jambalaya with beans on the side, and yeah.
I feel like I can already smell your house.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you.
Right on, Jose. Thank you. I love to cook as well. That's something, yeah, it's much cooler. That's great.
Yeah.
Jen, I have you next on my screen, so to speak.
Okay. Should I start now?
Sure.
Okay. My name is Jen. I'm in my sophomore year, going into my sophomore year. My major is exercise science. My origin is South Korean, and I have to specify because people ask if I'm from the North. And then personal interests, I like to lift. So yeah, I haven't been able to do that, but it's okay. I'm relaxing.
You mean weightlifting, I assume?
Yeah, weightlifting.
Yeah. Wow. Is it like what? Is there particular kinds of weightlifting? I really know little about weightlifting.
Yeah. Like back then, so I'm only 19. I'm like talking like I'm like older, but when I was 16, I competed in a bodybuilding competition, and like, yeah, I'm more of a bodybuilder than like a weightlifter and stuff, like power lifter. But I'm like mace. I don't know. I'm like,
Yeah.
I was gonna say like I'm mainly doing it for like aesthetic purposes and just health purposes instead of strength. So, yeah.
Cool. Great. Thank you, Jen. Dana. So name, year, origin, personal interest.
So my name is Dana, and that's what you can call me. I'm going into my sophomore year. So, but I came into like Montclair with extra credits, so I'm a little advanced. So I like that. And my major is psychology. So I'm hoping to stay at Montclair to get my master's. And I've lived in New Jersey my whole life,
Okay.
but my like origin is like I'm almost 100% Irish. So, which is tricky because my name is
I
Binkoletto,
know. I was gonna say that's a little
but
interesting.
because I'm adopted, so
Okay.
yeah. So everyone's like, "What?"
Right.
But yeah. And then my personal interest, I don't really do that much. I've been pretty lazy with the quarantine, but I really like taking pictures. And actually, yesterday I was just at the Brooklyn Bridge for the first time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so my boyfriend took me there. It was our like anniversary, so
Oh nice. Congratulations.
thanks.
Was yesterday your anniversary?
Yeah, like our
That's
1 year.
Oh, that's my wedding anniversary.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah. How bizarre. Yeah. Well, congratulations on your anniversary.
Thank you, you too.
Yeah. And the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah. Were there a lot of people out or no?
No. There was
Really?
like traffic. When we were leaving, there was traffic, but like walking around, we went to the park, there was like no one there.
Just make sure there's nobody in the waiting room. Okay.
Compared to
Yeah,
like
I mean, living in Brooklyn, like we haven't been going out very much, of course, but when I do, it's crazy how like my neighborhood is busy.
really?
Yeah, I'm surprised. And then, I mean, I guess to each their own, but it's, for not maybe half the people are wearing masks, which freaks me out a little bit
Yeah,
just because I'm the way I am. But it's
right.
everybody's choice. So, but
Yeah. There were people, but like compared to a normal day, it wasn't that
right,
crowded.
right.
It was
And I
nice.
guess it was a weekday, so maybe yeah, Monday.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. Thank you, Dana. Sarah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we
Okay.
can. Yeah.
My name's Sarah. I'm gonna be a sophomore in the fall. My major is exercise science. I've lived in New Jersey my whole life, but like my nationality is Swedish. And a personal interest of mine is lifting because I was a pole vaulter and gymnast in high school.
Wow. Muting
Hold
myself because the phone and
on.
this.
Okay.
Okay, sorry about that. Sorry, Sarah. There was a phone. Not in my office. I don't know how to control the phone in here, and I don't dare touch it. So, but I was gonna say, it sounds like you have a lot of connections with Jen.
Yeah, when she was talking, I was like, oh, that sounds just like me.
Yeah, there you go. That's cool. Right on. Right on. Where in New Jersey, Sarah? Sorry.
Clifton.
Okay. I know very little about New Jersey. I literally get off the train in Montclair, and so I always like to hear about it because most of my students are from New Jersey. So, cool. Thank you, Sarah. And then Brian, I'm not sure if you can hear us or if you want to share a little introduction. Oh, there he is. He typed it. Great. It's in chat if you want to see. So he says he's an incoming sophomore, computer science major from Africa, and I like to play basketball. Well, I'm sure it's been tough, Brian. Haven't been able to play basketball as of late, I don't think. So I'm not a huge sports fan, but now that we've been in quarantine and sports haven't been like around, I suddenly maybe am a huge sports fan. Like I'm just realizing that like it's like I don't know what. Like I'm like, God, I would really love to just watch a baseball game right now, or like, I was like watching golf the other day and my wife's like, are you watching golf? I was like, yeah, maybe there's something like peaceful about it. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, so maybe I am a huge sports fan. It's like some discovered hobby. I guess I said I like games, so I guess that would be to the point. And my sister's actually philosophy made. Well, she's a philosopher. She's written 10 books or something like that, and she's a philosophy of sport. So maybe that's what it is. But thank you guys for taking a little bit of time. It's really nice. I'm sorry I'm like looking down on the screen. I'm just taking some notes. About who's here and just some of the things, just so I can have a little bit of a sense of who people are. So thank you guys for being here. I think what we'll do, I'm definitely not going to keep you any longer than 3. If you need to duck out, if you need to bail out, perfectly fine. Feel like you need to go, you can just type. You don't need to say like, hey, bye, I'm leaving. You can just type in the chat like, hey, I need to go. That's perfectly fine. These things are totally optional. And like I said, if you're not comfortable with the video, please shut the video off, as whatever makes you most comfortable. But I wanted to sort of open it up before I dive into a little bit about the M1 overview and what exactly we're doing with this first module and paper. And then I want to go a little bit into first listens, some of the responses, and talk about things you can think about in terms of selecting a song to write about, like which one should I write about, or and how to start developing an analysis of it. I'm going to go into those things using examples from the discussion board. But before I do that, I just wanted to open it up if people had any questions about the class, the online format, even if they're obvious questions or questions about the syllabus or any concerns or anything like that.
I have a question.
Yeah, Jen.
So like, I looked at like the modules and I think you just talked about the first listens. Like that's like our first assignment, right? That's not the board discussion. Yeah. So I saw like the groups of names and when those people are posting, not replying, those people who are posting, what do the other people do? Like, do they have to hand in something on that day too, or is that just for those people?
Okay, great question. So I think what you're talking about is the invention posts.
Yeah.
So there's 2 the things we signed up for with that collaborative Google Doc. Yeah. So it's a good question. So actually I could probably, well, let me just say out loud. So there's class-wide discussion boards like the first listens, and we have another one that's due by the end of tomorrow night, a post that's due called The Anatomy of a Song, where you're choosing one of your songs, or you could choose a totally different song. If you want to choose a different song than you wrote about in first listens, you can go ahead and do that. Right. The idea of first listens was just to sort of get you thinking about music and songs and videos. And then so if you wanted to write about a totally different, you realize, you know what, I totally want to write about something else and I didn't write about it in my first listens thing, then go ahead and do that. Write about what sparks you, you know, what fires with you. One other thing, and then I'll answer your question. Sorry, I feel like a politician.
No.
A bunch of things are going to be jumping into my mind. I noticed some people in the first listeners discussion board were saying things like, oh, you wrote about that song. I really wanted to write about that song. If you want to write about a song that somebody is writing about, that is totally fine. Your paper will not be graded, quote unquote, against their paper. You know, all the papers are graded according to that sort of target areas, structural. It's about structure, form, detail, depth, those things. So it isn't like, oh, you know, so-and-so has a better argument, you know, a more interesting argument than so-and-so about This Is America, the song This Is America. So you'll notice I've also used some songs as examples, like This Is America is obviously the little sort of thumbnail of the, you know, and I use the example of other songs like with the like Killer Mike's Reagan is on Introduction and Central Claim. I forget what's in the subclaim one. I can't even remember. Anyways, even if it's a song that's used as an example or I use as an example, you still can write about that song. So if somebody else is doing a song that you want to do, go ahead and do it. You're obviously going to have your own take, your own position, your own argument. Now, to answer Jen's question at last, the invention post, right, there'll be about 9 or 10 students per module who will be posting next week. And the idea there is, so, and it'll be broken up into like sort of 5 and 5. So I'm not looking at the Canvas right now, so I don't know the names off the top of my head. But when it's your day to post, right, everybody else who's not posting is not doing anything. I guess ostensibly you're working on your paper or thinking about your paper or whatever it might be. Those people will post by midnight on Monday, next Monday. We will all, as a class, reply to those posts. I think I said 3 of them.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, you don't need to reply to all 5 students' posts, but just 3. So your choice of which 3 you want to respond to. If you're somebody who has posted well, you still need to reply to 3 of the others.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So you obviously wouldn't reply to your own post.
Yeah.
I mean, that
Oh,
doesn't.
wait. You have to reply to the other people that posted, not the replies that you got on yours.
Correct. Correct. There never will be an instant where you're replying to replies, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, so next Monday, forgive me, I don't remember the 5. I think it's Brian comes. Yeah.
Brian, Caitlin, Jen, and Mina.
Oh, you have fantastic. Thank you. So
yeah.
So yeah, Jen. So you'll be posting by the end of Monday night.
Yeah.
And that post is going to be focused upon whatever song you're interested in writing about. You should definitely use stuff like if there's stuff you wrote from in the first listens post, if there's stuff that you write in the anatomy of a song post, you're building from that. So don't feel like, oh, I got to use a totally different song, or oh, I got to do something totally different. Yeah, the idea is to be progressing with your ideas, but you can post, you can use that material to help build that invention post. And that invention post just represents a more sort of in-depth, it represents, you might have had in your 105 class, like early drafts or exploratory drafts.
Oh.
It kind of represents that.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I do that for this class is because one of the sort of, I don't know, shames I felt of this class back in the day, or the way I used to handle it, was that you guys would all write these wonderful papers and turn them into me, and I got to read all the wonderful papers. Now, I know you guys don't want to read everybody's paper. It's a lot of work. But all these ideas, right, were sort of happening outside of the classroom, other than the discussion we'd have in class. So the invention post is a kind of way to sort of workshop class-wide people's ideas and get a sense of what other people are doing, without too much labor, right? So you have to write 3 replies, I believe, of 100 words each. So your choice of who you respond to in those invention posts, and those replies are due, like Monday will be the post, Tuesday at the end of the night will be the replies, Wednesday will be another 5 posts, Thursday will be the replies to those 5. Yeah. And the other thing you'll notice, so that brings up 2 other points. As far as our papers are concerned, and I want to make this clear, what we're going to be doing is, you notice, is this first week, the first and second week, I would say the first week of each module is probably the most heavily loaded work-wise. So if you're saying to yourself right now, like, oh my God, like there's something to do every day this week, the first week will be that way because it's about developing ideas and generating ideas. Hopefully it's not too much. And if you feel like you're overloaded and swamped and it's overwhelming, do let me know. Don't be shy. So next week, so this week is all about just sort of getting our brains into this place where we're thinking about songs and figuring out a song we want to write about and starting an analysis. Next week is all about, as Jen brought up, is all about the invention posts. And then the third week, and drafting, right? We're going to be writing what I call a workshop draft. Then I will be responding to all the invention posts in detail. I will also be responding to everybody's workshop draft in detail. And then the third week will be developing your final draft. And the only homework, if you will, there is mainly peer review, is mainly what happens. So that last week is really light on work, but the idea there, of course, is that you're working on your paper, right? So other questions? Yeah, Jose.
Yeah, so for the invention post, do we kind of expand on the anatomy of the song?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll see in the invention post guidelines, it asks you to basically, certainly the anatomy of a song post basically is asking you, well, I can't remember now off the top of my head, the anatomy of the song post, I think, does it ask you to write about 2 different elements, I think, of your song?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think, essentially you could just expand on that for the invention post. Okay. I think, I don't think in the anatomy of song, I don't think it asks you to bring in any outside sources. In the invention post, you need to use an outside source. Doesn't need to be an academic source. Sorry, somebody's in the waiting room. Let them in. So yeah, you're essentially just continuing to develop your ideas. So like if it's, I expect it to be a little more than just sort of copying and pasting over your anatomy of a song, of course, because the idea there is that you're really sort of building your ideas, structuring them. It's not an essay, the invention post, it's a discussion board post. So you don't have to have a subclaim, you don't have to have all those things.
Okay.
But the other part of the invention post is that you are starting to present a little bit of an introduction, a sense of context. For example, well, I'll talk about this later, but for example, let's say I was writing about Marvin Gaye's What's Going On. Somebody posted about Marvin Gaye's What's Going On. I'm going to want to talk a little bit about the context of when that song was released. I believe late 60s, early 70s. I'm not sure exactly off the top of my head. But I'm going to want to talk about how the context of when that song was released, but also talk about the context of our own society and how it really resonates still, sadly, in many ways, with our own society, right? And so there's an introduction part to the invention post, I think 2 analysis parts, and then a kind of a concluding sort of questions, and then an argument part where I kind of want you to write what you think your argument's going to be. Doesn't have to be in a perfect, beautiful central claim format, but like I would say something like, I'm looking at Marvin Gaye's What's Going On in terms of the way that it's trying to, get people to wake up to the brutal realities of racism and violence in our society, right? Or something like that, right? So that's the thing that the invention post adds to, perhaps a little bit more beyond analysis. It's getting you to think about the context of the introduction as well as a little bit more of a sense of your argument, right? Or your approach. Okay. Does that make sense, Jose?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Okay,
you.
cool.
Yeah.
And good questions, and these are great questions. And again, I'm happy to repeat anything. So we have the workshop draft, which will be due at the end of next week. Then we have the final draft, which is the revised draft. But the revised draft is the final draft. So we're really only writing 2 drafts, just to be clear, per essay. Okay, any other questions about the class? And of course, you can always email. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have a question.
Dana.
About the participation points.
Yeah, oh good, yeah.
Oh, you're gonna discuss it?
Yeah, I can talk about it, yeah, unless you have a specific question.
Okay. I was just gonna ask, how many total can we get? I was thinking about the total.
Yeah, so for each module, it's just 5. And the goal of the participation points, to be perfectly honest, transparent, is just get people to contribute beyond the core of the class, if you will.
Right.
So it doesn't take much to get those points. It's all detailed in the syllabus.
Yeah.
But so, for example, you guys, by being here today, and Wendy, I see you here. You don't feel obligated to turn on your video or anything. But those of you who are here today get 2 points for being here, right? I will, and then, if you do an extra reply, say if you did an extra reply in first listens,
right,
you would get a point for that.
Okay.
You can get, I can't remember if it's 2, I think it's 2 points per extra peer review if you want an extra peer review. So it doesn't take a whole lot. And then there's the whole bonfire discussion.
Yeah.
Where you can sort of go, and I really want people to feel, I'll be honest with you, I've had that in my classes for a while, and I've never really gotten it to take off. I get it. We're all busy. We got plenty of work to do. It's not like I'm not looking to do extra work. But it's wonderful when it does. It's wonderful when people just say hey, I heard this song on the radio today. I don't even know what it was. It seems like, but whatever it might be, it's kind of a place where we can people can bring up ideas or topics or things that are coming from you guys, not just from me, right? I'm trying to avoid a situation where it's just top down, where I'm just giving you everything and you're just responding as well as you can. So, and there's 3 different kinds of responses you can do in that bonfire. You can do a deeper dive, which is more of a heavier, almost invention post or you can just do a point of interest, a quick, I think it's a 200-word thing. Or you can just reply. You can say, I posted one up there, and I think Levon maybe already replied, or somebody already replied. I just saw this funny thing about well, actually, it wasn't funny. It was kind of sad because people are just awful on the internet. I'm kind of a social media idiot, so people are just brutal on the internet. I don't know if I can. I think the reason I don't have social media is because I don't think I can handle it. But somebody like tweeted like, "Whoa, I just realized like Rage Against the Machine's music is so political," and it was just everybody just of course jumped down their throat like, "What machine did you think they're raging against?" And, "Oh, you're an idiot." And true, Rage Against the Machine
Yeah.
is very clearly a political band. I mean,
Mhm.
they you know they've never shied away from being very direct in their political. So I just posted something about that because I was like, that's interesting. But then I also had heard somebody say like, oh, I don't really like music that's super political, which I think is completely fair. I'm used to that also in the art world or like the visual art world where people are like, oh, like I don't want to see things that are really, I don't want to see photographs of horrifying images of violence. That's completely understandable. So to what extent should music not, I mean, so it's just a point of conversation. So that's the other place. So those things will be added up. They're called CP points, class participation points.
And you'll keep track of that?
Yeah. So I usually add them up at the end of the week, if not earlier. But if you're ever concerned, like, hey, I did 2 extra replies, and I mean, Canvas works like Big Brother, like it, basically counts your keystrokes, like, and see how many minutes you've been on Canvas. It's really actually disturbing.
Oh, wow.
But like when I click on your name, it'll tell me all the posts you've done. So I usually don't miss anything, but I am human and sometimes I do. And so just send me an email like, hey, Rick, I completed like 2 extra replies to, and I think you might not have seen that. But usually by the end of the week, I'll just say this for this class, by the end of Friday night, I will have all those points for that week in there, if not sooner. Usually like I'm going to go in today and figure out who did anything extra on first listens. But feel free to send me an email like, hey, Rick, yeah, I just want to let you know I did this, and I'll do it.
It goes weekly or by the module?
It goes by the module. So there's 5 possible for the entire module.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there another question?
How many papers would we be writing for this class?
Wendy, was that you?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you say again? I just couldn't quite hear you.
How many papers will we be writing for this class?
So in total, there's 2 papers you'll be writing for this class.
Okay.
So the first one is obviously this analysis that we're doing now of a song.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second one will be about choosing a field of interest and writing about how you sort of proposing a critique / different vision for that interest. So let me explain that a little more clearly. Let's say I'm really interested in college education, okay? That's the field of interest I'm interested in. I could write about how I think college education could be better or could be more effective. Or let's say I'm really interested in the mental health services in our society, and I feel like they could be a lot better. So I'm going to write an analysis and make an argument about how that system, the problems with that system, as well as perhaps propose ideas about how it could be better. The idea for the assignment comes from the way we're seeing global protests right now against, in the wake of the murders of George Floyd and so many others, and how a lot of people are demanding a new law enforcement, or some people are demanding no law enforcement. Now, I think the protests are fantastic. I think they are important. But the next step, right, is actually envisioning what that new law enforcement might look like. So you don't have to write about any of that. Like I could write about how, art education could be better for young kids. I could write about how journalism could be better or something like that. So that's the second paper. So you're writing 2 papers. Those are the 2 papers. Both of those papers then, oh, sorry, then there's a third module called the video essay module, or I might have called it something else, but, and it's essentially you choose between one of those two papers and you turn it into a kind of live, a PowerPoint presentation with a recorded narration. You turn it into a kind of video essay. So you're not writing a whole new essay.
Mm-hmm.
You're taking your written essay, one of the two that you've written,
Mm-hmm.
and then turning it into a kind of 5 to 8 minute video essay or video presentation.
Okay.
And it's not expected for that video essay, this is the other thing I wanted to address, it's not expected for that video essay to be super technically savvy. If you have the ability to put together a PowerPoint presentation, which I'm sure you all have done before, or some sort of slideshow, and then you just record your voice over it, which is it's pretty easy to do. That's all that it really takes. And the idea there is to really sort of develop skills in terms of multimodality, you know, understanding how you can create, you know, develop presentation skills, if you will. You won't be presenting it live, it will be recorded. So you'll just be recording it and posting it to Canvas.
Okay.
So 2 written papers and then the 1 video essay paper. We're also going to take 2 weeks for that video essay assignment, in part because I wanted to give you more time, but also in part, I'm sure you guys noticed that Montclair State University has moved the start of the semester up to, I think, a day after our class ends, which we just found out a couple weeks ago, right? School starts August 24th, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
instead of September, whatever it was. And I want to give you a little bit of buffer as much as I can. I mean, this is a tight schedule with an 8-week class, but I wanted to give you as much a buffer as I can. So I'm trying to make, I will try to do that, at least give you a couple days where you won't have any work to do before the start of the new semester, because that's just brutal. Thank you, Wendy. Does that answer your question? I hope so.
Yes, it does.
Cool.
I have like a
Yeah.
unrelated question, but kind of related. I don't know if you can answer this, but so like I'm taking another course after this, and do you have an idea like what they're doing because like my other course starts when school, like the regular semester starts?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know like what the protocol is, or like?
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, it's a whole difficult and challenging and muddy mess as to what's going to happen in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
What I believe is going, you know, and the other thing is we might be in a totally different place come August. It seemed like people thought this pandemic was under control, and now it seems like it's back out of control in so many different states. So I guess the short answer is it's not quite clear, and I know that's not very satisfying. It's not quite clear what's going to happen in the fall.
Yeah.
What I do know, and these are things that are being fought and negotiated over, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
Us teachers have our own ideas of what we think should happen. We want to protect you guys. I'm not saying the school doesn't want to protect you guys. They want to protect you guys too, but the school also wants their money. And I know there's a lot of students. I mean, if I was you, I would want to be learning in class. I mean, of course, there's all kinds of caveats here because your health, your safety, all that stuff. So it's a mess. It's very difficult. But what I do know, what I was going to say, is that they are certainly going to, almost every department, from what I know, will have some form of at least hybrid classes, meaning that you might not meet every week, twice a week, or every week. You might only meet 3 times a month or something like that in person, and then you would have online stuff otherwise. But they are scrambling, and I have to give credit, as much as there's many frustrations I might have with the administration. they're also in a very difficult situation, and they're trying to figure that out as best they can. So all I really know right now is that, and then it's going to be up to individual classes. Like some classes might be hybrid, some might be online only, some might be like a very light or lightened version of in person. So it's still up in the air, Dana, but
So, but
yeah.
if I have another summer class
Oh,
after this, but it starts like it overlaps with the fall semester.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure they're fighting about that.
So I don't.
So I don't know.
You know. Okay.
I would let your teacher know, though. I mean, I'm sure your
Well, I
teacher
mean, they
knows
know.
that. I'm sure they know that fact. But I think it's your right to sort of say, like, you know, we're obviously concerned. Like, you're going to be starting a new semester in the middle of the finals, if you will, of this class.
Right.
That's a little that's not fair. It's not fair. So I would let my teacher know, like, could you please, you know, find it in you to maybe make the final due a little earlier or whatever, you know. So, and that's what I'm trying to do with the video essay, is I don't want to, you know, have you guys press stop on your recording for the video essay, wake up and go to your first class of the fall semester. That just seems ridiculous. So, Levon.
How's it going? Sorry I'm so late, but I'm working, so.
Hey, no problem. Appreciate you stopping by. We're just opening it up real quick for questions. This is probably going to take up the whole time. I had some stuff I wanted to say in regards to the first listens thing, but maybe I'll record it. I could host another Zoom, I guess, tomorrow if people, that would be interesting, if that would be of interest to people, or I could just record a kind of mini sort of lecture. But Levon, if you had any questions about the class or anything, now would be the time. I mean, obviously you can email or post to open discussion at any time, but if you had anything hanging on your head.
I think everything is pretty detailed the way you have it laid out. So I guess as long as I follow the direction, I should be okay.
Yeah, that's one of the things, and I know I'm not very concise in my emails and my announcements. And I don't know. I can't stand email in some ways. It's sort of surprising as I'm an online teacher. Just, I don't know. I'm old enough to remember what life was like without email. For some reason, I have this nostalgia for that. Yeah, I mean, it's like I said in my own, it's important that we're all sort of diligent to sort of read those instructions, read those emails. I know it can be a lot to read. And a lot of times that stuff's longer is because I'm trying to sort of like be as clear as possible, maybe overly clear. But of course, feel free to reach out, even if you feel like the answer is obvious, you just want to double check. Please do email me, please do, or post it to the open discussion, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
I have one more question.
Yeah, Wendy.
So I just registered for this class yesterday, and I wanted to know if any assignments have been due prior to me registering. I think I saw that this class started on Monday.
It did, yeah. So yeah, we have an assignment due. So what I'll do, Wendy, is I'll send you. Are you in? So you're in our Canvas class, obviously.
Yes.
Okay, so what I'll do, Wendy's, is just I'll reach out to you directly with what we can do to get you caught up.
Okay.
Meaning I will write you an email.
Okay.
Because we have about 5 more minutes here. But yeah, to answer your question quickly, Wendy, we had one discussion, class-wide discussion called First Listens. You can see it if you go into the modules, click on, you know, DB1 First Listens, or go into discussions. It's a post and reply assignment. That's the only thing we have done so far. Okay. The thing that's due tonight, just let me go over that real quick. And I realize that many of you have already done it, and great, that's great. The thing that's due tonight is the collaboration where we go into a Google Doc. And Wendy, I'm going to have to add you into that because I didn't like you said, you just added the class.
Mhm.
And I know that document's going to get flooded with comments. That's okay. That's fine. The main point of that document is just an exercise in starting to understand subclaims and analysis paragraphs and how to build them. Obviously, you guys have all thought about these things and talked about these things in previous writing classes, but I wanted to sort of give us 3 different examples of 3 different sort of levels of quality so you understood kind of what excellent, effective, adequate means, because those will be in our rubric in our essays, but also just to sort of refresh ourselves, like how do what is a subclaim? How does it function? What does a analysis paragraph, subclaim driven analysis paragraph look like? You know, examples, evidence, stuff like that. So that's really the exercise there to give you a sense before we do our anatomy of a song post, how that analysis process works. So I believe you just go in there and you make 2 comments. There's 3 different support. I know it seems weird. I limited it to 2 comments because I thought that would cut down the document from being way too overloaded. It's still going to be overloaded, but that's okay. You want to make 2 comments on wherever you want on any of those 3 paragraphs. So you can choose 2 different paragraphs. You can put 2 comments on the same paragraph or whatever it might be. So the idea is just to sort of get us back in touch with reading writing, commenting on writing, and understanding where analysis paragraph structures.